what is your most impactful couch surfing experience?
So I have to tell two stories. One is a Servus story where I was traveling. My wife and I were traveling before we had our daughter. In 2007, we were in Japan, and I had a friend, an American friend, who had married a Japanese woman, and then kind of because of weird travel plans, my wife and I kind of ended up on their honeymoon with them in Japan. It wasn't
Awkward.
supposed to be their wedding. Yeah, it was their wedding changed dates because of her green card status, and so they ended up getting married earlier, and so we were on that trip with them, and it was a wonderful trip. It was exactly what you describe, of being immersed in another culture. So by traveling with this Japanese woman and her now new husband, she was our tour guide in her country. So we were traveling around in the Kyushu island of Japan, the second island down from the Tokyo main island. And so we had a rental car and just went around as she was our guide, but it was kind of her hometown or home state, and doing things that she had always wanted to do but never gotten around to. And so we just amazing experience. And then for about a week, and then they went off to go with her parents on their proper and do honeymoon things. And my wife and I continued on, and we started staying with Servus people. And so we spent 3 different hosts, 6 different nights. And this is in the countryside outside of Nagasaki area.
Oh wow, yeah.
And just like that's not where you go when you go to Japan. You don't go to way out there. But we basically went there because there was Servus people there who said come to visit. And and this was 2007. This wasn't a million years ago or anything. But as we were walking down the main street of one of these towns or villages, even, like, the school children all got out of the school at the same time, and they're all going through the street, and it was a unique and weirdly rural enough place that the school children were all pointing at the strange bald white guy. I'm like, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
And to have that experience in 2007, in this connected world, was really an amazing moment. I mean, not just being pointed at by kids, but just being there and experiencing them and eating at their dinner table and helping the grandma with the rice out in the garden. I mean, it was an amazing thing that I never would have had experienced even with my, traveling with my friends. So that's my Servus experience. And then I would say on the couch surfing side, which is maybe more where I've experienced more of the young people, once we had some couch surfing people contact us, and they were going to bike, like road bike, from San Francisco to LA or Santa Barbara or something like that. And we are not really on the way, but they were talking to everyone. And I said, you'll never make your bike up our road, but I'll come and pick you up and you can come and stay with us. And it was 2 travelers who had met on couch surfing. And it was a Dutch woman, a young Dutch woman, and a French guy. 2 young people who were not a couple. They were just friends who had met in a youth hostel or something and decided to do this trip. And they were biking, and of course they had no idea about the distances of America when they were thinking. And they got far enough to get to the point where I was to pick them up. And at that time, I just had a big old American pickup truck, and I threw their bikes in the back of back of my truck and drove them up our mountain hill road. And they were amazed to find what they considered to be a little oasis in the woods. And they got to stay in the yurt, and we have a wood-fired hot tub. And so they had, after their long, weary travels, they got to experience that. And of course, with social media and stuff, we're connected to this day. And that young Frenchman, Jean Sebastian, lives in Paris, or I haven't checked with him in a couple of years. And then since then, I've had friends go to Paris, and I'm like, well, you got to connect up with Jean Sebastian, and he'll take you to the cool spots. And 2 different times I've had Americans go and visit, and then they end up having a wonderful time with John Sebastian in Paris. And so it's like, it's like he's my cousin or my nephew or something. Like we're connected like that, just because we had this little experience of them trying to bike through California.